The Alien Research Collective had long prided itself on its ability to understand and categorize the vast array of life forms that populated the galaxy. Comprised of the brightest minds from numerous species, the collective had spent centuries observing, cataloging, and classifying the various creatures they encountered. Each species was neatly placed within a hierarchical framework: predators, prey, scavengers, symbiotes, roles that defined their place in the galactic ecosystem. This method of categorization had served them well, allowing them to predict behaviors and interactions with a high degree of accuracy. However, one species had always eluded easy classification: humanity. Humans were an enigma to the collective. Physically, they seemed fragile compared to other species, lacking the natural weapons or defenses that characterized apex predators. Yet, despite these apparent limitations, humans had spread across the galaxy, thriving in environments that would have overwhelmed other species. They adapted quickly, forming colonies in the harshest of conditions, and their influence continued to grow. This success defied the collective's established categories, leading to increasing curiosity and frustration among its members. The collective began to focus more intently on humanity, seeking to understand what made them so resilient. They pored over data, studying human physiology, social structures, and technological advancements. On the surface, humans seemed to fit the profile of a prey species: small, relatively weak, and highly social. But something didn't add up. Prey species typically avoided conflict and sought safety in numbers, yet humans had a history of engaging in wars, overcoming seemingly insurmountable odds, and emerging victorious. They were adaptable, resourceful, and most intriguingly, they possessed a will to survive that bordered on the ruthless. As the collective's interest in humanity grew, so did their determination to unlock the secrets behind this species. The prevailing theory was that humans were a prey species that had simply adapted exceptionally well to their environment. Perhaps they had developed advanced tools and social structures to compensate for their physical shortcomings, allowing them to survive where others could not. But to the collective, this theory felt incomplete. They needed to observe humans in a more controlled environment, to see firsthand how they responded to threats. Thus, the decision was made to hunt. A team of elite alien hunters, drawn from species known for their physical prowess and hunting skills, was assembled. These hunters were the best of the best, each with a reputation for tracking and capturing even the most elusive prey. Their task was to capture a group of humans on a remote planet, where they could be studied and understood in a controlled setting. The hunters were confident in their abilities, certain that this mission would be straightforward. After all, how difficult could it be to capture a species that, by all appearances, was far from the top of the food chain? The humans chosen for the study were located on a frontier planet, a world at the edge of known space where a small group of colonists had established a settlement. These humans were engaged in routine exploration and colonization efforts, focused on building a new life in the wilderness. They were unaware that they were being observed, let alone that they had been targeted for capture. To the hunters, this planet seemed like the perfect setting. The humans were isolated, far from any reinforcements, and the environment was rugged enough to challenge them, but not so hostile as to make the hunt impossible. As the hunters prepared for their mission, they studied their prey from afar, noting their movements and behaviors. The humans appeared to be going about their daily lives with little concern for the dangers around them. They explored the terrain, built shelters, and foraged for food, all with the efficiency of a species well adapted to survival. But to the hunters, these activities only confirmed their assumptions. Humans were simply clever prey, capable of surviving through cooperation and tool use, but ultimately defenseless against a superior force. The plan was set. The hunters would strike swiftly, using their advanced technology to capture the humans before they had a chance to react. They would be taken alive, their behaviors observed, and their survival strategies analyzed. The collective anticipated that this study would finally provide the answers they sought, revealing the true nature of humanity, and where they fit within the galactic hierarchy. The hunters, confident in their superiority, prepared for what they believed would be an easy and successful mission. But as the hunters readied themselves to make their move, the humans on the planet remained blissfully unaware. To them, It was just another day on the frontier, a day of exploration and hard work in their quest to tame a new world. They did not know that they were being watched, that they had been classified as prey by a species that had yet to understand the true nature of their quarry. And as the hunters closed in, ready to strike, they would soon learn a lesson that no amount of research could have prepared them for. Humans were far more than they appeared, and the hunt was about to take a very different turn. The alien hunters descended onto the planet with the confidence born of countless successful hunts. Their ship, equipped with the most advanced tracking technology and cloaking devices, landed silently in the dense forest near the human settlement. These hunters, each from species known for their physical dominance and unparalleled tracking abilities, were handpicked for this mission. To them, this was just another hunt, one where the prey, though intelligent, was expected to offer little resistance. The humans, after all, were seen as a species that relied too heavily on their technology and cooperation, traits that the hunters believed would be easily exploited. The hunters began their task by spreading out, using their advanced scanners to pinpoint the locations of the human colonists. The humans were engaged in their usual activities, scouting the area, gathering resources, and making preparations for the coming night. Unaware of the danger lurking in the shadows, they moved through the wilderness with the confidence of a species that had tamed countless other environments. The hunters observed them silently, noting their routines and assessing the best moment to strike. As night fell, the hunters decided to make their move. They set up a series of advanced traps around the perimeter of the human camp, traps designed to incapacitate their prey without causing significant harm. These devices emitted low-frequency pulses that interfered with the nervous systems of most species, rendering them temporarily immobile. Confident in their technology, the hunters prepared to close in on the humans and complete their mission. The ambush was swift and precise. The traps were triggered as the humans made their rounds, securing their camp for the night. Within moments, several of them were immobilized, unable to move as the hunters emerged from the darkness. The humans, caught off guard, appeared disoriented and vulnerable, exactly as the hunters had anticipated. The aliens moved quickly, binding the immobilized humans and preparing to transport them back to their ship for further study. The initial encounter seemed to be going exactly according to plan, with the humans offering little resistance. But as the hunters moved to secure their captives, the situation began to shift in ways they had not expected. The humans, though seemingly incapacitated, began to communicate with each other through subtle gestures and glances. Despite their apparent helplessness, they were assessing their surroundings, noting the hunters' movements and the technology they were using. The humans were not panicking. Instead, they were observing, analyzing, and preparing. One of the humans, despite being partially immobilized, managed to access a small device on their wrist, a communication tool the hunters had overlooked. Within moments, a coded message was sent out, alerting the other colonists to the situation. The hunters, focused on their immediate task, did not notice the subtle exchange, believing the humans to be fully subdued. They were unaware that the humans had already begun to adapt to the situation, gathering information and planning their next move. As the night wore on, the hunters started to notice small, inexplicable occurrences. Equipment that had functioned perfectly began to glitch, scanners showed ghost readings, communication devices emitted static, and one hunter even experienced a brief, unexplained paralysis in one limb. The hunters dismissed these anomalies as minor technical issues, perhaps a result of the planet's magnetic fields or interference from the dense foliage. However, the humans, now fully aware of their captor's presence, were subtly exploiting these weaknesses. The captured humans, though still restrained, continued to observe their captors closely. They noted the hunters' physical prowess, their reliance on advanced technology, and their apparent overconfidence. The humans began to piece together a plan, using their knowledge of the environment and the hunters' own equipment against them. They recognized that while the aliens were formidable, they were also unprepared for the level of cunning and adaptability that the humans could bring to bear. By the time the hunters realized that something was amiss, it was too late. The first real sign of trouble came when one of the hunters attempted to check on their captives, only to find that one of the humans had managed to disable the energy restraints with a piece of debris, a seemingly innocuous rock that had been carefully selected for its conductive properties. The hunter, momentarily stunned by the humans' ingenuity, was quickly overpowered as the other humans took advantage of the distraction. The situation rapidly deteriorated from there. The humans, now partially free, began to disable the traps and devices the hunters had set, turning the technology against their captors. The hunters, who had entered the situation with supreme confidence, found themselves facing an enemy that was not only unyielding but also frighteningly resourceful. Their initial arrogance faded as the realization dawned that they had underestimated the very prey they had sought to dominate. Unease began to creep into the minds of the hunters. The mission, which had seemed so straightforward, was quickly spiraling out of control. Equipment continued to malfunction, and the humans, once seen as easy targets, were now actively resisting. The hunters, still trying to reassert control, began to realize that they were no longer the predators in this scenario. The humans, adapting to the circumstances with a speed and precision that defied the hunters' expectations, were turning the tables. The night, once intended to be a simple exercise in capture and observation, had become a tense and unpredictable struggle. The hunters, though still armed and dangerous, were now facing an opponent who was more than capable of matching them in cunning and resolve. The humans were no longer just a study subject, they were a threat that the hunters had failed to anticipate, and one that was growing more formidable by the minute. The hunt was far from over, but the roles were beginning to shift, and the hunters could sense the change. What had started as a simple capture mission was now evolving into a test of survival, one where the outcome was anything but certain. The captured humans, who had been observing and analyzing their captors from the moment they were restrained, now saw their opportunity. The hunters, still confident in their superiority, had not anticipated the humans' ability to adapt so quickly to their circumstances. Using the knowledge they had gathered during their brief captivity, the humans began to execute a carefully planned escape. It started with subtle, coordinated movements, disabling energy restraints, sabotaging equipment, and communicating through hand signals and whispered commands. The hunters, focused on containing their captives, failed to notice the gradual unraveling of their control. The escape unfolded rapidly. The humans, exploiting the weaknesses they had observed, moved with precision and purpose. They used the environment to their advantage, utilizing the cover of night and the dense foliage to slip away from their captors. One by one, they neutralized the traps that had been set for them, turning the alien technology against its creators. The hunters, caught off guard by the sudden reversal, scrambled to regain control, but it was too late. The humans had vanished into the wilderness, leaving behind only the remnants of their escape. Now free and armed with a deeper understanding of their enemies, the humans began to strike back. The hunters, who had entered the planet with the intention of capturing their prey, found themselves in unfamiliar territory. The dense forests and rugged terrain that had initially seemed like obstacles for the humans now worked in their favor. The hunters attempted to track their escaped captives, but they soon realized that the roles had reversed. They were now the ones being hunted. The humans employed guerrilla tactics with terrifying effectiveness. They moved silently through the wilderness, setting traps and ambushes that targeted the hunters' vulnerabilities. The once confident aliens, accustomed to being the apex predators, were now confronted with an enemy that was not only resourceful but also relentless. The humans struck swiftly and without warning, using the terrain to their advantage. The hunters, unaccustomed to this level of resistance, began to falter. As the humans continued their assault, they escalated their tactics to include psychological warfare. They understood that fear could be as powerful a weapon as any physical attack, and they began to use it to their advantage. The hunters, who had once seen themselves as the superior species, now found themselves isolated and vulnerable. The humans created diversions, rustling in the bushes, strange noises in the night, fleeting shadows, that played on the hunters' fears and uncertainties. Every movement, every sound became a potential threat, and the hunters' nerves began to fray. The humans set traps designed not just to injure, but to unnerve. Simple snares that left one hunter dangling from a tree, or a carefully placed pitfall that caused another to break a limb, served as constant reminders that they were no longer in control. The humans knew that they could not match the aliens in raw physical strength, but they didn't need to. Their minds, sharpened by the will to survive, were more than enough to turn the tide. The hunters' numbers began to dwindle. What had started as a confident team of elite predators was now reduced to a few disoriented and frightened individuals. Each loss further demoralized the survivors, eroding their confidence and driving them deeper into desperation. The humans, once seen as mere prey, were now a force to be reckoned with, a force that the hunters had grossly underestimated. Panic began to set in among the remaining hunters. The realization that they were outmatched not by superior technology or strength, but by sheer adaptability and cunning, gnawed at their resolve. Their advanced weapons and equipment, once seen as their greatest assets, now felt like burdens. The humans, who had so effectively turned the environment against them, had also turned their own minds into weapons. The hunters, who had once been the embodiment of control and precision, were now driven by fear. The human strategy was clear: they would not confront the hunters directly unless absolutely necessary. Instead, they would wear them down, exploiting their psychological weaknesses and using the terrain to isolate and defeat them one by one. The humans understood that survival was not just about brute strength, it was about outthinking and outmaneuvering their enemies. They had become the predators in this deadly game, and the hunters were their prey. As the humans continued their campaign, the hunters' situation grew increasingly dire. Their numbers were too few, their morale too shattered, to mount an effective counterattack. They were being systematically dismantled, not by overwhelming force, but by the relentless pressure of an enemy that refused to give up. The humans, who had once been seen as a simple prey species, had proven themselves to be something far more dangerous. In the end, the hunters were left with a choice: continue a fight they were clearly losing, or attempt to retreat and survive. But even retreat was fraught with danger, as the humans had cut off their escape routes and set traps to catch any who tried to flee. The hunters, once the apex predators of their respective species, were now nothing more than desperate survivors, clinging to the hope that they could somehow escape the nightmare they had created. The humans, having fully embraced their role as predators, showed no mercy. They understood that in this environment, there was no room for hesitation. The hunters had come to capture and study them, but they had learned a harsh lesson instead. Humans were not prey to be studied and understood, they were predators, and they had turned the tables with lethal efficiency. As the last of the hunters fell to the humans' relentless tactics, it became clear that the true apex predator of this world was not the one with the most advanced technology or the strongest physique, but the one who could adapt, survive, and dominate when the situation demanded it. The leader of the alien hunters, once so confident in the mission's success, now found himself in a situation spiraling out of control. His team, elite and fearsome, had been decimated by a prey they had arrogantly underestimated. As reports of their dwindling numbers and growing disarray reached him, he realized that the humans were no ordinary quarry. They were predators in their own right, and they had turned the hunt into a nightmare. Desperation crept in, but he clung to the belief that a direct confrontation would re-establish his dominance. If he could face the humans head-on, show them the strength that had earned him his reputation, he might still salvage the mission. Driven by this determination, the alien leader prepared for a final, decisive confrontation. He issued orders to the remaining hunters, gathering them for what he believed would be the last push to crush the human resistance. He knew the humans were clever and resourceful, but he was confident that his superior strength and technology would prevail in a direct fight. He planned meticulously, believing that a display of force would cow the humans into submission. The leader's confidence, however, was rooted in the same overconfidence that had led his team into this perilous situation. Unbeknownst to the alien leader, the humans had anticipated his move. They had studied him as closely as he had studied them, understanding that his pride and desperation would drive him to seek a final confrontation. The humans knew they could not face the aliens in a straightforward battle of strength. They would have to rely on the same tactics that had kept them alive thus far: cunning, adaptability, and the careful use of the environment. The humans set about laying a trap, using the terrain to their advantage. They identified a narrow gorge with steep, rocky walls, an area where the alien hunters would be forced to move in a single file, limiting their ability to use their superior numbers and technology effectively. The humans rigged the area with traps, carefully concealed among the rocks and foliage. These traps were designed not just to injure or kill, but to disorient and isolate, breaking the cohesion of the alien group and leaving them vulnerable. When the alien leader and his remaining hunters entered the gorge, they did so with a sense of grim determination. The leader believed that his presence would intimidate the humans, that his team's advanced weaponry and combat prowess would finally bring the battle to a swift end. But as they moved deeper into the gorge, the humans sprang their trap. The first sign of trouble was subtle, a small rock slide triggered by a hidden tripwire, which sent a cascade of boulders down onto the aliens. The group was forced to scatter, breaking their formation and leaving them exposed. The humans struck with precision. Using the cover of the gorge, they picked off the hunters one by one, targeting the weakest and most isolated first. The alien leader, now separated from his team, realized too late that he had walked into an ambush. The humans were no longer just resisting, they were hunting him. The realization hit him like a physical blow. He had underestimated them from the start, mistaking their initial vulnerability for weakness. Now, he was the one being stalked, his every move anticipated by an enemy that had turned his own strategies against him. As the last of his team fell, the alien leader found himself alone, cornered by the very prey he had set out to capture. The humans emerged from the shadows, their expressions hard and unyielding. They moved with the confidence of those who knew they had the upper hand, surrounding the alien leader in a tight circle. The leader, for the first time, felt a flicker of fear. He had always believed in his superiority, but now, faced with the cold, calculating eyes of his opponents, he understood the truth. These humans were the real apex predators, not just of this planet, but perhaps of the galaxy. The final confrontation was swift and brutal. The alien leader, despite his desperation, fought with the ferocity of one who knows he has nothing left to lose. But the humans, well prepared and coordinated, outmaneuvered him at every turn. They exploited his every mistake, every moment of hesitation, using the environment to limit his movements and wear him down. The leader's strength and technology were of little use in the close quarters of the gorge, where the humans' intimate knowledge of the terrain gave them a decisive advantage. In the end, it was not a battle of equals. The alien leader, once a symbol of power and control, was brought low by the very prey he had sought to dominate. He fought valiantly, but it was not enough. The humans, methodical and relentless, outflanked him, their attacks precise and unyielding. The leader, realizing the futility of his situation, made one final, desperate attempt to strike back, but it was too late. The humans had anticipated his every move, and with a final, coordinated effort, they overwhelmed him. The alien leader fell, a victim of his own hubris. The humans, standing over his defeated form, understood that they had reclaimed their place as the true apex predators of this planet. They had not only survived the ordeal but had turned it to their advantage, proving that they were a species not to be underestimated. The humans had faced a deadly foe and emerged victorious, their adaptability and cunning winning out over brute strength and advanced technology. As the humans gathered themselves after the confrontation, they knew that this victory was more than just a survival, it was a declaration. They had demonstrated that they could not only withstand the worst that the galaxy had to offer but could dominate it when necessary. The alien hunters had come to study and subdue, but they had learned a harsh lesson in the process. When it comes to survival, humans are the ultimate predators. And in this deadly game, they had once again proven that they were at the top of the food chain. The surviving humans gathered in the aftermath of their ordeal, their minds heavy with the weight of what had transpired. The landscape around them, once peaceful and teeming with life, now bore the scars of a deadly conflict. As they tended to their wounds and took stock of their situation, a quiet understanding began to settle among them. Their victory had not been a fluke of circumstance, nor merely a testament to their adaptability. It was something deeper, something primal. They realized that, when pushed to the edge, they were not just survivors, they were hunters. The instincts that had driven them to outmaneuver and overpower their alien adversaries were not born of desperation alone, but of a latent predatory nature that had surfaced in the face of an existential threat. These humans, who had always seen themselves as builders and explorers, now recognized a different aspect of their nature. They had faced a superior foe, and had not only survived but had dominated the encounter. They had become the predators, turning the tools of their would-be captors against them, and using the environment as an extension of their will to survive. This revelation was unsettling, but it was also empowering. They understood that their success was not just about intelligence or resourcefulness. It was about an inherent ability to adapt, to strategize, and to hunt when necessary. They were not just a species that could survive, they were a species that could thrive in the most hostile conditions, capable of becoming the apex predator when the situation demanded it. Back at the Alien Research Collective, the failure of the hunt sent shockwaves through the scientific community. The team that had been so confidently dispatched to capture and study the humans had been utterly defeated, their advanced technology and superior physical prowess rendered meaningless in the face of human cunning. The collective had long prided itself on understanding the hierarchical roles of species across the galaxy, categorizing them neatly into predators, prey, and scavengers. But the outcome of this mission forced them to confront a reality they had not anticipated. Humanity defied these categories. The last transmissions from the failed mission, filled with fear and desperation, revealed a species that was far more complex and dangerous than the collective had ever imagined. The implications of this revelation rippled through the collective's ranks. If humans, who had always appeared so cooperative and peace-loving, could turn into such formidable predators under threat, what did that mean for the established order of the galaxy? The collective had to reassess their understanding of humanity. They had underestimated them, viewing their success as an anomaly rather than as evidence of a deeper, more intrinsic nature. The realization that humans could occupy the role of apex predator when necessary challenged everything the collective thought they knew about the balance of power among species. As news of the failed mission spread, other species across the galaxy began to take notice. For centuries, humanity had been seen as a relatively peaceful and cooperative race, known more for their diplomacy and technological innovation than for their capacity for violence. But now, those perceptions began to shift. The story of the hunt, and the humans' lethal response, quickly became a topic of intense discussion. Species that had once viewed humanity as potential allies began to reconsider their stance. Was this a species to be befriended, or one to be feared? The broader galactic community found itself at a crossroads. On one hand, humanity's ability to defend itself so effectively made them a desirable ally, capable of bringing strength and strategic insight to any coalition. On the other hand, the knowledge that humans could turn into such ruthless predators if provoked made them a potential threat that could not be ignored. The balance of power, once stable, now seemed less certain. If humans were capable of such ferocity, what might they do if pushed further? And how would they use this newfound recognition of their own predatory nature? In the midst of these galactic deliberations, humanity itself began to reflect on its position in the universe. The ordeal had revealed a truth that could not be ignored. Beneath their veneer of civilization and cooperation lay a capacity for predation that rivaled any species they had encountered. This understanding brought with it a sense of responsibility. How would they wield this power? Would they continue to pursue peaceful exploration and cooperation, knowing that they could unleash a more formidable side of themselves if necessary? Or would they lean into their newfound reputation as apex predators, using it to secure their place in the galaxy by any means necessary? The narrative concluded with a contemplative tone, leaving the future open-ended but charged with potential. Humanity had survived the hunt, but in doing so, they had changed the way they were perceived across the galaxy. The other species would now have to decide how to approach a species that had proven itself capable of terrifying predatory behavior when threatened. Would humanity be seen as a protector, a powerful ally who could be relied upon in times of crisis? Or would they be feared as a lurking danger, a species that could turn on its allies if pushed too far? The final thoughts lingered on the idea that humanity's position in the galaxy was now more complex than ever before. They had shown that they were not just survivors, they were predators. And as the galaxy watched and waited, the humans themselves pondered their next move, aware that their actions from this point forward would shape not only their own destiny but the future of the entire galaxy. The story left readers with the understanding that humanity, whether as ally or adversary, was a force to be reckoned with, a species whose true nature was now fully revealed to all who dared to observe.